Hello, I'm Holly, long time no see. You may have noticed that I haven't posted many videos in February. I have posted a few. I think I had my Polathon vlog and then I had a Open University studying video, but I haven't done a sit down video for quite a few weeks now. And February hasn't been the greatest month for me. I won't go too much into it. I've been quite stressed about my university work, and that's kind of like gone into every other aspect of my life. When I'm stressed about something, I'm stressed about everything. But I thought, what better video to come back with than March's round of the novel TBR game. If you're new to my channel, this is my monthly TBR game, how I decide what books I'm going to read each month. I will leave a link to the first round of this video in the description box if you haven't seen, and the rest of the playlist for more information on the rules and stuff like that. But I have not been feeling much motivation to film, but I am very excited to film this. I love my TBR game. It's very motivating for me in terms of reading as well as filming. And I do think that my amount of videos each month is going to go down to maybe one a week. I might do a couple of extra videos here and there, but I hope you don't mind, and I hope that you enjoy today's video. So first of all, let's have a little look at what my TBR was last month. So these were the physical books on my TBR. We had The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde, which was a classic that was an anticipated read. We had The Vagabond Clown by Edward Marston, which was my TBR jar pick for not completing January's TBR. Then we had Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman, which was a sci-fi that was a second chance read, so I was giving this author and this series a second chance. Then we had The Gilda Stories by Joelle Gomez. This was a randomly generated number on my bookshelves. We also had Citizen by Claudia Rankin, which was for my reading goal prompt. And finally we had Alas Away by Darcy Little Badger, which was a fantasy with an author surname A to M. I did quite well on my TBR in February, so I have read all of these books. I don't need to take a punishment book, and when I say I've read them all, I've attempted them all. I did DNF 1, which I'm not going to talk about here. You'll have to check out my wrap up when that comes out in the next couple of weeks. But that means that I don't have a punishment read for March, which is very exciting. I had a lot of books that I have been eyeing up for March, a lot of fantasy, had a couple of new releases, and in March it is also going to be the 48-hour Bookoplathon, which is a readathon hosted by Becca at Becca and the Books, based on her Bookopoly game, which is another TBR game. It was actually her TBR game that inspired me to start my own, so I definitely recommend checking out Becca if you haven't. And I think I will actually just start with the first book that I'm going to be reading for that. So you can't really plan too much of your reads for Bookoplathon because actually the prompts are released throughout it. She did release the first two prompts though, which were fantasy and dark cover, and you don't necessarily have to pick a book that fits both. You could pick two books or just go with one prompt. But I am going to be reading A River of Royal Blood by Amanda Joy. This is a fantasy with a dark cover, and I don't know too much about this. I think that it is a young adult fantasy following these two sisters. Is it two sisters or just two people? I'm not sure, and they kind of have to fight for the throne. I don't know too much. It seems quite short, so I think it's perfect for a readathon. And yes, so that is going to be the first book I'm going to read for Bookoplathon. So after all that rambling, I think it is time to get into role number 1. Another month, another round of the novel TBR game, and as always, let's start by finding our starting position. A 1. So we're starting there. Okay then, role number 1 is a double. We hardly get any doubles, so that's fun. And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, a rainbow or a sci-fi. The rainbow ones are very exciting. I think we'll go for that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the prompt for that is randomly generated number on Goodreads. For role number 1, I landed on a rainbow square, very exciting, and the prompt for that was a randomly generated number on Goodreads. So I randomly generated a number, and then I went onto my Goodreads page and counted down on my want to read shelf, I think that's what it's called, and they are my own TBR. And the book that came up was The Bastard of Istanbul by Elif Shafak. So I got this in a subscription box. I think it was the Books That Matter box, which is all about uplifting female voices and female stories. And when I read the blurb of this, I was really intrigued. So I think it's following this family of women in Turkey, and loads of things are going on in their life. One of them, I think, has an abortion. One of them is clairvoyant. One is a hypochondriac. And it says that the main character's feisty American cousin ends up coming, bringing long-hidden family secrets with her. And it just sounds like it's going to be a look into this family and female relationships. And I really do want to be reading some more like literary books, or especially books that aren't set in the UK or the US. I think my reading is very centered in those countries. So to read a book that is like a very formative book in Turkey's literary genre, I think it is very well known. And I'm very excited to try this one. The writing is quite small, and I don't really know what to expect about this one, but yeah, I'm very excited to give this one a go. Roll number 2 is an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh dear. Another rainbow. That's fine. It's fine. A TBR jar pick. For roll at number 2, we again landed on a rainbow square, which is great. It's not great because I cannot usually pick my rainbow square prompts. They're usually like random prompts. So the prompt for this was a TBR jar pick, and that book was A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. Now this is fine. I am very excited to continue this series. The 5th book, I think, has come out recently, which is A Court of Silver Flames. Everyone is talking about this series at the moment, but this is the 3rd book. And this series follows this girl called Feyre, who is a human girl, and she ends up having to hunt to provide for her family. One day she's out hunting and she kills this wolf. Turns out he's a fae, and because of this bargain in place, she ends up having to pay with her life and go and live with the fae for the rest of it. It's very much a romantic fantasy, and romance plays a big role. I do like the love interest, especially in the 2nd book. And this is quite chunky though, and I wasn't expecting to read this in March. I thought it might be a few more months till I got to it. I think it's like 700 pages, which is fine. I am excited, and I definitely wanted to continue this series this year. So it might not have been the book that I was wanting to read this month, but I am still excited to give this one a go. Roll number 3. A 3. 1, 2, 3, a non-fiction or poetry, or a horror, thriller / mystery. I think that I'm going to go with a horror, thriller / mystery. And the prompt for that: why reread a favourite? This is not going well. Then roll at number 3 was a horror, thriller or mystery that was a reread. Now this is where a novel TBR game got a little bit cruel, I think, because as I said earlier, I had a lot of fantasy books and other books that I wanted on my TBR. I didn't really want to be rereading any books this month, but it's fine because this one actually worked out pretty well for my reading goals, and that is because I'm going to be reading Dracula by Bram Stoker. This was actually on my 21 books I want to read in 2021 video. I think it was my reading goals video. I will link that in the description if you're interested. But this is a book that I read quite a number of years ago during my Twilight phase. I loved vampires as a teenager, and I definitely picked up Dracula during this time. I don't have a great recollection of what this is about. I know some of the key points. For example, you have this man called Jonathan Harker who goes to Transylvania, I believe, to sort out Count Dracula's affairs. Turns out Count Dracula's as a vampire, this has major repercussions. Other people are getting turned into a vampire. Count Dracula comes to Whitby, lots of drama, and I don't think I loved this, so technically it's not like a favourite, that is what the prompt was, but I do love vampires, and I think now that I'm older and can fully appreciate classics more, it might turn out to be a favourite. I'm hoping that I do love it. I'm sure that I will. I love vampires, and this is obviously a very classic vampire novel. So I'm excited. It wasn't really what I wanted for March's TBR, but we're going with it, and hopefully I end up loving this one. Roll number 4. 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is just like going really well. And the prompt is an author I've read before. So, roll number 4. So, roll number 4. It was a classic from an author that I've read before, and this is where my heart started to sink, because so far I hadn't got one book that I really wanted to get to in March on my March TBR. And then I had a look at the classics that I've read, because obviously I had to read another classic from an author I've read before. Now, I really love Emily Bronte. I think it's Emily Bronte who writes Wuthering Heights, but she literally wrote one novel. Then another author that I've read is Charles Dickens, but I don't love Charles Dickens, and I just did not want to read that one this month. So I am kind of cheating with this prompt. It's not cheating. I have read from this author before, but I've read the first 200 pages of this book, and I'm going to be reading the next 200-ish pages of Les Mis by Victor Hugo. I'm sure you've heard me talk about this one this year, because this is a 6-month project for me, and I'm a little bit behind schedule. I think I was meant to do about 200 pages a month, and I'm about a month behind. So I'm on page 195, and I'm hoping that I can catch up to where I'm supposed to be at this point, so I can complete it by the end of June. So actually it's more than 200 pages. I'm trying to get to page 600, which isn't great because the writing in here, it's just so small, and obviously it's a classic, so it takes me a little bit longer to get through. But technically I have read from Victor Hugo before. I've read the first 200 pages of this. I'm going to be reading more from this. So I'm not intending to finish this one in March, it's more just to continue. But that like 400 pages-ish that I have to read is pretty much equivalent to, you know, another book. So it counts in my eyes. And actually so far I'm really enjoying this one. Victor Hugo definitely goes on some tangents, which I do find a little bit boring, but the actual core bits of the story, for example, when he was talking about Jean Valjean's experience in prison, I really loved the commentary that he had about how prison is just not the right way to punish individuals. Like, punishment is not how society should treat certain individuals. They should be more trying to rehabilitate, and that is something that I definitely believe in personally. So I am really enjoying it. There's some great quotes. If you don't know what Les Mis is about, it's like this epic French classic about the French Revolution and different individuals. So you have Jean Valjean, who was in prison. He was imprisoned for 19 years for, I think he broke in somewhere and stole something, but no one got hurt, and then because he kept trying to escape from prison, he just got years and years added on his sentence. And it's really his story of finding himself again, finding a purpose, and pushing past what society had said that he was, and actually becoming a great person. And I am really, really enjoying this one so far. And then my extra roll is an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Another horror thriller or mystery. You know, I really wanted fantasy, and that didn't happen, did it? So, okay, a used book. Then I did have an extra roll because I had a double, and that was a horror thriller or mystery that was a used book. It wasn't very nice to me, was it, this month? Not one fantasy. I couldn't get one book that I actually really wanted to read in March on my novel TBR game at TBR. We will go into a couple of other books in a minute. But the one that I have picked is Pest Control by Bill Fitzhugh. This is actually going to be the first book I'm reading from the Last Chance Saloon. That was a video. Did I make it at the end of last year? I had a lot of fun making that video. And basically I picked 8 books that I want to read in the next year, or I wasn't really sure if I wanted to read them because I've seen them on my shelves, I haven't picked them up for years, and if I didn't read those books in the next 12 months, I was just going to unhaul them and get rid of them. But I am somewhat interested about Pest Control. I believe it follows this man who is in the business of pest control. He kills bugs, and I think there is some kind of miscommunication and someone comes to him and says, "Can you kill a person?" And I think he is like forced into being an assassin, and the CIA is closing in and other assassins are trying to like kill him off so they can get the hit. It just sounds very wild and very fun, and I think that it is going to be very funny. So I picked this one up a few years ago just from the blurb. I'd never heard anyone talk about this book or this author before, but it says it's the fastest, funniest, most original thriller in years. Doesn't say who wrote that. Could be anyone. Could be the author himself. But we shall see. We shall see what this one's going to be like, and it is very short, so hopefully it won't take me very long. Now, clearly I didn't get one book that I wanted to get to on this month's novel TBR game at TBR, which is fine. My main book that I was just like, I thought I would be able to get in, but I didn't, is The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon. So this came out at the end of January, I believe, and I did want to get to it in February, but I forgot to put it on my TBR because I pre-ordered it and I don't think I'd got it by the time I filmed my TBR, so I just completely forgot about it. And I wanted to get it on this month's TBR. I'm going to read it, but this is the 4th book in the Bone Season series, which is a fantasy, sci-fi, dystopian, paranormal kind of mashup, following this girl called Paige in this world where clairvoyancy is illegal, so think tarot card reading or ghosts, that kind of thing, and she is clairvoyant. She accidentally reveals her powers, gets arrested, and the story goes from there. There's a lot more in this book. There's a whole criminal underground. There are species that may not be human. I'm not going to tell you anything more than that, but I am so excited to get to these. I loved the first 2 books in this series. I gave both of them 5 stars. I think I read them last year or the year before. And then the 3rd book I gave 4 stars. I still really enjoyed that, and I'm hoping that this one can be like a 4 or 5 star read as well. I have seen a couple of people's reactions to this though, and the ending seems like it is going to destroy me. I'm very easily destroyed, so hopefully I survive this book. But yeah, I really want to get to this one in March, and I'm hoping that I can, but we shall see. And then I did also have a couple more books which are high priorities for me, and they are some advanced reader copies or ARCs. I signed up to NetGalley in January, I believe. I haven't really talked about it because I didn't do a January wrap up. I am going to be doing a joint January and February wrap up, so I will talk a bit more about it there. Basically, if you're a blogger or a vlogger, or I think you're a librarian or a bookseller or anything in the world of books, you can sign up for free and you can get free advanced copies. And I didn't think I was going to be approved for any of these books, and I was. So I have already read a few and I will talk about them in my wrap up, but I do have a few that are coming out very soon that I want to get to. So we have Ariadne by Jennifer Saint, we have In the Ravenous Dark, we have Sorryland by Rivers Solomon, we've got The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nevo. I think those are the ones that I have right now, and I don't necessarily have to read them all in March, but I do have a few that come out in April and I would love to read them in March, so I can tell you at like the beginning of April whether they're worth picking up. But yeah, that's my TBR. Even though I couldn't get The Mask Falling or any of my ARCs onto my A Novel TBR game at TBR, I'm still okay with this month's TBR. I didn't really want to read some of these books this month. Not to say that I don't ever want to read them. I just had this like plan in my head about what I was going to read in March, and unfortunately the TBR game let me down this month. But let me know if you've read any of these books or if you want to read any of these books. And I think that's it for today's video. Also, leave me something that has made you feel really happy over the past few weeks or few months. I've been feeling a little bit down at the moment and I would love to hear what has made you smile or made you happy. I have really been loving WandaVision. I love WandaVision. Let me know if you've been watching that. But yes, that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching, and to everyone out there, stay curious. Bye!